Hello and welcome to Database Management Systems. I'm Jovita Christie, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you views and transaction control commands in SQL. So let's begin. A view in SQL is nothing but a query that is written and stored in the database so that whenever you try to access it, that query is going to run. And let's just create a view and see how that works out. So first of all, I'm going to use one of the tables that I already have, which I've created in the two of my previous videos. One such table is the employees table. Now I don't really want to make any changes to this table, so I will be creating a copy of this table by writing create view. Sorry, not create view, by writing create table and creating a table employees 2, which is a duplicate. So create table employees 2 as select star from employees. And now employees 2 is the table that I will be using to create a view. So what view exactly does is, this is my table and I want to create a view E1. So create view E1 as, now just like I did create table as select, view is also created in the same manner as create table, create view, and then name of the view as, and then a select query. And this select query can be anything. So for example, out of this employees 2, I want to create a view that contains only the employee ID and first name and last name. Then I can select just those columns. From employees 2, and it says view created. Now what happens is, whenever I try to do select star from E1, then this is the result of it. So now you might question what exactly is the difference between create table as select and create view as select. The difference is that create view as select does not really create another table. It just stores this query that you've written here. So now whenever I try to do select star from E1, this E1 is actually going to get replaced with this query. So the view E1 itself is not actually a table. It's just a query that is stored in the database, and every time you try to access E1, that query will be executed. So that's what a view is. And views are also updatable, just like tables. So for example, I could insert into my employees 2 table if I wanted, insert into employees 2 values, and I could insert a new employee with the name ABC, first name ABC, last name DEF, and some debt code CNSLT, and salary 50,000. So if I check, this is what employees 2 looks like. There is an extra row present here. And if I check the view that I had created, E1, you'll see that the view also contains an extra row with number 7 inserted into it. This happened because E1 is nothing but the select query that I wrote. And that's why any changes you make to employees 2 will also get applied to E1. But check the original table, which was employees table. This does not have number 7. Because this is the original table and I simply created a duplicate employees 2. This does not mean that whatever changes I make to employees 2 are going to get applied to employees. So this is the main difference between create table and create view. Now, why exactly would you want to create a view? You would want to create a view because Maybe you want to give access to your table to somebody else, but you don't want them to see all the information present. So maybe you would like to hide information about certain employees, or you would like to hide the whole salary column or the debt column. So depending on all these reasons, you would be creating a view. That's the main reason, the purpose of creating a view in a database. So you can give access to people. Now, what happens to the view? Can I insert data into the view? Now, right now, if you notice the employees to table, if you describe it, you will notice that it does not have a primary key. Employee ID is not a primary key because when you create a duplicate table, it it does get the schema and the data in the table, but it does not copy the primary key or the foreign key. So that is something you would have to add afterwards. So I'm going to add over here the primary key, and so I'll do alter table employees to modify, and let's make employee ID the primary key. And it says table altered. Now let's take a look. Now it says employee ID is not null, which means this has indeed become a primary key. Now let's see if we can describe E1. Yes, you can describe E1, and you can see that the employee ID here also has become a primary key. Now let's try to insert something into E1. Now, because you are you have been given access to E1, you will not actually realize that it's a view. Just imagine that somebody gives you E1 and tells you that this is a table and you can access it and do whatever you want with it. You will not really understand that it's a view. You'll just consider it as a table with 3 columns. And so you would want to insert data into it. And you can insert into it by writing insert into even values. But since you can see only 3 columns, you'll be able to insert only 3 column values. You won't be able to insert debt code and salary. So let's say I want to insert an employee 8 with the first name XYZ and the last name ABC, and close the bracket. And it says 1 row created. So let us see. Select star from E1. Yes, number 8 has been added here. But what happens to the original employees to table? Let us see employees to table. You can see in employees to table also 8 has been added, but the debt code and salary for this number 8 employee are left none because we cannot insert these two from the view. So that means this view in itself is an updatable view. But that doesn't mean all views are updatable. Certain views are updatable and certain views are not updatable. And I'm going to tell you which types of views are updatable. So first of all, if you created a view using 2 different tables. So for example, if I created a view, first of all, let me create a duplicate. Let's clear the screen. I have a table called works on, and I'm going to create a duplicate of this. So I'm going to write down create table works on 2 as I'm going to select everything as select star from works on. And it says table created. So now I have employees to table and works on to table. Now using these two, I'm going to create a view 2. So this is a create view E2 as, and now I'm going to write select star from select star from employees to comma works on 2. So I'm writing here, instead of just one table, I've written a comma. So what comma actually does is takes a Cartesian product. So when I hit enter, it actually gives this error of duplicate column name because employees 2 contains employee ID and works on also contains employee ID. So in a table, it's not allowed. So we can indeed decide the columns. So let's take the first name. Let's take employee ID from the employees 2 table. So I'm going to mention over here employees 2 dot employee ID. And then I'm going to take the first name and from the works on table, I'm going to take a project ID, and that's it. And it says view created. So whenever this is created, now if I take a look at the view, select star from E2, this is what it looks like. There are 48 rows because it was a Cartesian product. So there's a Cartesian product with everything. Now, do you think that this view is going to be something where I can insert? This view contains three columns: employee ID, first name, and project ID. Do you think I can insert anything into it? Let's try and find out. So I'm going to insert into E2 some values. Let's say that I'm going to insert employee with ID 9 and name GHI. And I'm going to insert a project ID with character robo SPSE. And now you can see that there is an error. The error says that cannot modify a column which maps to a non-key preserved table. This error is essentially coming because we created a view out of two tables. Whenever the view is created with two tables in the from clause, then it won't be an updatable view. Now, what other type of view cannot be updated? So let's create another view called V3. So create view E3, sorry. So create view E3 as select, and this time I'm going to select the salary from the view and group it by the depth code. So I'm going to select the depth code and the average, the average salary from the employees table and group this by depth code. Now, because this is a view, you need to group. Whenever you get this error in the view, it's because you have not given a name to this column. This is just average. So this cannot be a valid name for a column in a table, and so you would have to give it a name like this. After writing average salary, you'll have to write as, and then you will mention what name you want to give it. So I'm going to name it average underscore salary. And then it says view created. So let's take a look at the view. Select star from E3. And this is what E3 looks like. Now let's try to insert something into it. So insert into E3 values. Now there are only two columns, so I can only insert two things. Let's insert the depth code and let's insert an average salary, 60,000. And once again, it will give you an error saying virtual column not allowed here. This error is because you used in this definition right here while creating the view, you used a group by clause, you used an aggregate function. So in either of these cases, you cannot have an updatable view. Even if instead of average salary, you were to use something else like writing salary equal to salary plus 1,000 because you want to increase 1,000 and then view it, then also it would create a problem for you. And if you were to use the keyword distinct here with the column name, then also that view would not be an updatable view. Another problem that can happen for a view to not be updated is if you do not include an attribute that is supposed to be not null. For example, my employees2 table contains these 5 columns, but the employee ID is actually a primary key. So if I create a view without this not null attribute, so that means I'm creating a view E4 as select, and this time I'm going to select only the first name and the last name from employees2, and the view is created. This time my view looks like this, select star from E4, and this time if I try to insert something into it, insert into E4 values, and let's just insert ABC XYZ as the first and last names. You'll notice that it does not insert that. It does not insert because when you try to insert first and last name, first of all, you cannot insert employee ID and debt code and salary because they are not present in this view E4. So you can only insert first name and last name. But like the first view we created, this will not get inserted because when you're trying to insert only first and last names, then the employee ID will be left null. And that creates a problem here because employee ID cannot be left null. If it is left null, then it violates the primary key property of employee ID. And that's why this type of a view is also not updatable. So that's how certain views can be updatable and certain views are not updatable. And now for the second part of my video, I'm going to explain to you some transaction control commands. One of those commands is the commit command, which I used even when I created the database that I'm using here. So commit saves your data, and whenever afterwards, if you are going to open your computer and find your data, you will be still able to find the data because you used commit. If you don't use commit, sometimes it's possible that you created some tables and the next time you open your computer, those tables or views are gone. So that's why commit is something that is used to save. You can just write commit and put a semicolon and hit enter. And when it says commit complete, that means your data is saved. There are 2 more transaction control commands. Let me clear the screen. 2 more transaction control commands, which are save point and rollback. So I'm going to use one of the tables that I have, which is the employees table, employees2 table. So I have employees2 table, or let's use the works on table. It's a smaller table. So I have the works on 2 table that I created, which looks like this. Now let us try to insert something into it. So I'm going to insert into works on 2 values. I'm going to insert, say, number 5, and here I'm going to put DNLDCLNT as the project ID and the assigned time as 0.8, and it says 1 row created. Let's check if it's there. So it is present here. It has been inserted. Okay. At this point, I'm going to write here save point, and I'm going to name it. I'm going to name this save point as S1. So what this does is whatever work I've done up to this point is saved, but whatever work I do after this point is not saved. So it does the work almost like commit, but it's slightly different because save point is going to save work up to a certain point. So now after this, if I try to insert something into works on 2 values, and this time I'm going to insert ID 3, with the project ADT4MFIA, and the time assigned to be 0.77. And it says one row created. Let's take a look at the works on to table. So that row has been inserted. But now, because I created a save point, and that save point was only up to this point, that means only after I inserted this row with assigned time 0.8, and then I created a save point. So this is saved, but this new row that I've inserted is not saved. It is visible to me right now, but it may not be visible afterwards if suppose I close my program right now and then come back to it tomorrow. So it's possible that this extra row that I've inserted will be gone. But also I can do a rollback. So a rollback works like this. You can write down rollback work to S1. So when you write rollback work to S1, what happens is whatever happened after S1 will be rolled back. So whatever happens after S1 will be gone, and everything else will remain. So let us, there's no space between rollback, so rollback work to S1. S1 was the name of my save point. It says rollback complete. Now let's take a look at what's in works on to. You can see that this row with assigned time 0.8 is still available, but the row with assigned time 0.77 is gone because I did rollback work to S1. So whatever was done till S1 has remained and everything else is gone. So while doing your work, you could create several save points, and then you could roll back your work up to whatever save point you would like. So that's how you can have a little bit more control over transactions in SQL. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.